All right. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Welcome to the 2023 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference, Plenary Session 2, Biocultural Heritage of Manila, on the first work day of the week. No, we were supposed to have it May 1, but it turned out to be a holiday. So this is the first work day of the week, and we have our Plenary Session 2. So I am Hani Libertine, Achanzar-Labor, with the Faura project, and I'd like to and I will be introducing our moderator for the session in a while. But before that, I would like to thank everyone who were with us in the opening session. No? So Dr. Abrigue was there, Dr. Chit Rubite, and it was a very wonderful start. We had a wonderful roster of speakers this morning, and I look forward to, which makes me even look forward to today's to this afternoon session, no? Because this session is also something that would very much is also very rich, no, in the discussion of both cultural heritage and biocultural heritage. In fact, this particular session is a challenge, no, for all our speakers. No, we have one speaker who's really more into cultural heritage, but this particular session, or this afternoon, she will be presenting to us how her advocacy, or how her study in cultural heritage, no, is something which can also lead, no, to floral advocacy, and the other way around. We have so the one I said earlier holds true for our first speaker, and then the other way around applies to the next three speakers, who are all biologists, no, who has been tasked to speak of the biocultural implication of their particular choice of flora. No? So, okay. So, for the details of today's session, I would have to introduce to you the moderator for this afternoon. So, Professor Rosario Rivera Rubite is not only an outstanding teacher of UP Manila, she is also a prolific researcher. She is the only specialist on the plant begonia in the Philippines. When she started studying this plant group for her Ph.D. dissertation, an upsurge of new discoveries emerged. In the last 10 years, she and her collaborators had produced 45 scientific publications and discovered 45 new begonia species. Her data on Philippine begonia generated morphological and molecular evidences for the race circumscription of begonia section Baryandra. From 40 species, now a total of 81 species, that's like more than half, no, belong to this section, 96.3% of which are endemic to the Philippines, declaring the country as a center of diversity. A begonia found only in Mentangan, Busuanga, Palawan was named by Dr. Mark Hooge of the Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh, Scotland, Begonia rubitei. No? So after Professor Rosario Rubite, who has done so much to further the understanding of Philippine begonia. So without further ado, let me bring you to Dr. Rubite.
Thank you very much, Levi, for that generous introduction. So let us start now with our first speaker. Our first speaker is a Ph.D. in history student at the Universidad de Seville. She is a master's degree holder in archaeology and heritage from the Universidad Pablo de Olavide in Seville, Spain. Likewise, she earned her graduate diploma in archaeology from the University of the Philippines Diliman School of Archaeology in 2006. She became a recipient of a scholarship and research grant from the Spanish government, namely the Programa de Becas Ministerio de Asuntos Exteriores y de Cooperación, Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo from 2010 to 2012 and the 2016 Hispanics program for her work on the cemeteries of Alta Pampanga. Currently, she is a part-time instructor at the History Department of the University of Santo Tomas. As an advocate of culture and local history, she became one of the founding members and current president of the Katipunan, Daring, Talasaliksik at Talaturong Kapampangan, a fully accredited member affiliate of the Local History Committees Network of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. So friends, let us listen to that presentation titled Scent of Death, Understanding the Heritage of Value of Flowers through their role in the construction of cemeteries during the Spanish colonial period by Miss Charlene Manese. Charlene, take the
Magandang
floor.
po kayo nga. Good afternoon po. Let me just share my screen po. Clear po ba? Nakikita po ba ng maayos?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, thank you po to the organizers of the Flores de Mayo conference for giving me this opportunity. And I hope I could also get inputs to improve this work. Okay, so this presentation is actually an offshoot of my research that I'm doing on burial and sanitation compliance of cemeteries during the Spanish colonial period for my PhD. So as mentioned a while ago, I have done the same topic, but under the study area, okay, or using the study area Pampanga. No? And while checking laws regarding burial and sanitation, okay, when it comes to the construction of cemeteries, I came to realize that the scent emitted by aromatic flowers, okay, in the context again of cemeteries, is an interesting topic to explore. Okay, so let me just move my PowerPoint presentation. So as we all know, flowers are widely used in expressing different feelings and commemorating different occasions. Hence, the connection between flowers and death is very evident, or we could say na it's something universal, since they are being used in expressing sympathy and even some death-related rituals. In the Philippines, some flowers are associated with death, mainly because of their scent. Okay, so for example, in our province, I grew up hearing these things na when someone yung smell, the scent of Dama de Noche, no, yung parang may white lady daw, something like that, no. So the fragrance of sunflowers evokes thoughts of supernatural entities, cemeteries, and other beliefs related to death. So flowering plants such as calachuchi, amarillo, cantutay, and cadena de amor, among others, are commonly associated with death and other superstitious beliefs. Okay, so for the objectives of this presentation, I would like to understand the role of aromatic plants in the history of cemeteries, as well as the relationship of some superstitious beliefs involving flowers to history and folk practices, and also to contribute to the understanding of the cultural relevance of aromatic flowers are as part of our olfactory heritage. Okay, so what is olfactory heritage? This definition is according to the University College of London Institute of Sustainable Heritage. So according to them, olfactory heritage is an aspect of cultural heritage concerning smells, okay, that are meaningful to a community due to their connections with significant places, practices, objects, or traditions that can be therefore considered as part of their cultural legacy. But unfortunately, olfactory heritage is not yet recognized by the UNESCO. The advocates of this type of heritage are expecting that with the possible inscription of the cultural heritage of Gas, France, the place known for its perfumes, no, they are expecting na if their heritage would be inscribed, more studies on olfactory heritage will be pushed or at least appreciated. Okay, so anyway, researchers from this institution, okay, the University College of London, no, particularly Cecilia Bembibre and Matiha Starlik, noted that odors are powerful triggers for emotions and they are effective in evoking memories. For example, specific smells can also be related to cultural practices, expressions, and knowledge. They also inform about how practices have evolved through history and the materials associated with them, as well as the conditions in which smells are experienced. But they should be associated with place and its use in order for those smells or odors to be considered as part of olfactory heritage. Okay? So fortunately, the Historic Buildings and Monuments Commission of England, formerly English Heritage, acknowledged that smells of a place are considered valuable. Okay? Good thing they acknowledge this to think na they're very particular with tangible heritage nga, no, particularly buildings, no, but they see the importance or relevance of smells. Okay? For them, this should be considered when defining the character of a historic area. Okay, so anyway, what's the connection of the aromatic flowers, okay, and cemetery? So it has something to do basically with miasma, okay, and the diseases, and of course, eventually the construction of cemeteries nga, no? So just to discuss briefly what miasma is all about, no? It refers to the unpleasant vapor that was believed to cause diseases. So basically, when we say miasma, it refers to bad air. Okay? So that was the belief before. So the unpleasant smell may come from rotting carcasses, vegetation, and other invisible dust particles. Basically, anything that emits unpleasant odor. This theory is being held from ancient Greek period up to the 19th century. So ganun po katagal. Okay, so while it involves removal of the cause of the stench, no, they believe then good odors could combat diseases. Okay, that's why yung mask being worn by the doctor during plagues, no, it contains aromatic plants because they believe na it could purify nga the air, no, during that period. So now again, the connection of miasma and cemeteries, no? So through the construction of cemeteries, though the construction of cemeteries is an ancient practice, okay, the strong Catholic tradition of church interment was preferred. So this contributed to the delay of construction of cemeteries, particularly within the colonies of Spain. A review of the major royal orders and warrants issued during the Spanish period revealed the impact of cemeteries on legislation and religious tradition of church interment. So basically, the laws involved regarding the construction of cemeteries are related also to the concept of miasma. Although burial inside the church was previously bestowed to distinguished deceased, this privilege was later acquired by common lay persons. So burials were not only limited within the church building, but also within its premises, as evidenced by the presence of graveyards or burials within the church compound. So varying reasons linked to this practice involve belief in the afterlife, and then salvation, okay, social displays, social status display. It also became a form of incentive kasi the privilege of of being interred, no, inside the church, and it also became a way of augmenting number of religious followers. So basically, in short, those people became yung parang like very fanatic when it comes to church burial. Okay? Well, initially there's nothing wrong with this, but it came to the point na it was too much already. Okay? Na it was already yung causing conflict between the church, the government, and even lay persons. Okay, so as a former colony of Spain, this was of course practiced in the Philippines as well. So from clerics, persons of nobility, and Spaniards, this privilege was also extended to anyone who could afford the interment fee. Okay, so with the rampant practice of church burial and other pressing concerns such as health sanitation and the issue on the separation of the living and the deceased through the prohibition of interment within the church, this became one of the issues that transcended various reigns during the Spanish colonial period. So, meaning to say, it was not addressed immediately. So, maraming nagdaan na mga hari sa Espanya, but they were not able to address this. So basically, the laws and different orders were just reiteration of the first one. Pero yun nga, meron lang mga konting lang po yung mga differences, but basically the specifications are just the same. Okay, so about that, then what about the turning points? So what led the monarchs to push for the construction of cemeteries? As we all know, di ba, that is something is something very religious, or very related sa religion. So basically, the monarchs had to defy the church in order for them to construct this structure. So I would like to emphasize this kasi nga ayun nga we often look at cemeteries lang as burials, pero if we will check its history, medyo madugo din siya. I mean their construction, and I'm not only pertaining to the case of the Philippines, but also other yung places like former colonies of Spain, and even Spain then mismo they had difficulties in implementing the orders. Okay, so with the rampant practice of church burials and other pressing concerns such as health and sanitation, the issue on the separation of the living and deceased through the prohibition of interment within the church became one of the issues. So I was able to mention that na a while ago. So basically, yun nga something happened. It's about an epidemic, pero may special citation ito dun sa doon sa batas or doon sa doon sa royal warrant na inisyu noon. This is about the epidemic that took place in Villa de Pasage, or in English Pasaya, in the province of Guipuzcoa in Spain in 1781. So according to the law, or the royal cedula, it was believed to be caused by the numerous cadavers buried inside the church, which called the attention of King Carlos III. So he cited mismo doon sa batas nga na yun nga they believe that the stench coming from that church caused the diseases or the illnesses na nagkalat during that time. Okay, so he also cited the role of the Spanish period of enlightenment in public health and sanitation, which believed that the decomposing odor of the cadavers caused the diseases based on the now obsolete theory of miasma. Okay, so until on April 3, 1787, King Carlos III issued a Real Cedula reestablishing the doctrine of the church on the use and construction of cemeteries based on the Roman practice that prohibits burials within populous areas. So construction of cemeteries should take into consideration the following factors, such as they should be constructed outside populated areas. So this is something very yung logical nga, because they are trying to separate din yung the living from the dead, because even though people won't believe in miasma theory, but it's something logical naman to have a separation, something like that, and one of the common specifications din po yung it should be situated in an elevated area, okay, and then good ventilation, because they believe that yung constructing it within an elevated area could provide good ventilation, kasi it could yung blow the stench away from the populous area. So yun nga opposing the direction of the wind, and it should be enclosed by wall made of concrete or bricks, no? And of course, they should be surrounded by trees and plants. Okay, so what else pa ba, no? Like what I've said a while ago, no, this order, no, transcended different monarchs because basically, no, people, no, failed to yung to comply to these orders. So bakit po ganon, no? First, the resistance of the parishioners because they are still yung into the idea of yung having church burials instead of being buried, okay, outside churches. Okay, so they are not yet ready to to uh, they're not that ready, no, doon sa bagong na yon, no, yung concept sa kanila, no. Pero actually, like what I've said, cemeteries, di ba, they're not really that new, di ba? I mean, even in the olden times, di ba, marami ng mga sementeryo, okay? And then next, yung lack of clear guidelines, okay? Kumbaga, may utos lang. There's an order, pero yun nga, paano i-implement, no? Kasi first of all, no, yung mga parishes, they lack funds because the task of constructing cemeteries was given to parishes na mismong sila na may problema nga, no, when it comes to funds. Okay, so if we will check nga the history of different churches within the Philippines, di ba nga, yung unti-unti yung construction nila, di ba, kasi nga due to lack of budget, di ba. What more pa, yung magpatayo pa sila ng cemetery, di ba? If they cannot afford nga yung immediate yung construction of the church, no, I mean the concrete one, no, ano pa yung yung magpatayo ng another facility under their yung funding and care. Okay, so anyway, yun nga, no, to move forward lang, no, in the Philippines, of course, this was reiterated kasi nga bakit puro paulit-ulit kasi hindi nga siya nagagawa maayos. Okay, so ang nangyari dito, no, even in the Philippines, okay, yun nga, an order was issued, particularly during the term of Narciso Claveria. So, he ordered the use of sanctorum, okay, for the construction of cemeteries outside populated areas according to previous law. So basically, ito yung yung pera, no, from the church or church tax. Okay, so and similarly, no, it was reiterated by Fernando Norsagaray. Okay, so bakit may reiteration? Again, no, kumbaga ang nag-push sa kanila, no, it's because of the yung diseases na yung na nagkalat, no, noong panahon na yon. Okay, so they're still like blaming cemeteries, no. Pero anyway, it's not in this case, it's no longer purely about miasma naman eh. Kasi nga with the number of yung cadavers, there's really a need, no, to construct yung another facility to accommodate nga, no, yung yung mga namatay. Okay, so anyway, to discuss lang, no, yung flowers associated with death and superstition. So as mentioned a while ago, okay, one of the specifications in the construction of cemeteries nga includes yung plants. Okay, and kumbaga cemetery should be surrounded by plants, specifically aromatic plants. Okay, so for the first example, we have calachuchi. Okay, so it's a native of it's native to the tropical America but naturalized in Asia. Okay, so the name calachuchi, it came from the Nahuatl name na medyo mahirap lang pong i-pronounce, no, yung Kakaloxitil, okay, meaning crow's flower. Okay, it's popularly known as plumeria because it was named after French botanist Charles Plumiere, and it's also known as fragapani. Okay, so it's a perfume once popular, no, noong mga like 16th century, something like that, no, although there are different versions of that story, but basically it points to the yung popular perfume during that time. Okay, so I think naman, no, we are familiar with the appearance of calachuchi, kaya there's no need to elaborate this part further, no. Pero we have to I would like to emphasize lang, no, na yun nga, they're easily propagated. Okay, which this characteristic is also essential, no, in understanding its yung anong tawag dito, connection to the people. Kasi nga, it could be propagated easily, di ba? Aside from, yun nga, many breeders, kumbaga, ano nga, ano yung they're actually very interested, no, because they could be bred, no, into different colors. Okay, and although Calachuchi is very common, no, meron siyang characteristic na very mysterious din, no. Its scent is strongest at night, which attracts sphinx moths, no, for pollination, kasi Calachuchi, no, cannot pollinate in a usual way. Okay, I think our botanist could explain that further, no. So it's deciduous, no, so it sheds its leaves, no, and when it sheds its leaves, no, it gives this ano nga, no, yung parang creepy appearance. So imagine ano nga, no, yung having Calachuchi trees, no, sa isang cemetery, tapos wala siyang leaves, no, so makita natin yung gnarled and bare branches niya, no, so kumbaga it adds to the ano nga, yung parang creepy appearance, no, of cemeteries. Okay, so medicinal purpose, no, there's ano yung ano nga, many ano nga, no, yung studies regarding this, no. So basically parang Calachuchi is one of the go-to ano nga, no, yung medicinal plants that could treat different types of problems, no, from skin diseases, no, pati ano nga, no, yung pati birth control, no, ginagamit din siya, as well as in terms of management of diabetes. Okay, and symbolism, no, for the Aztecs and Mayans, it's a symbol of power, fertility, and including eroticism. Pero when they were converted into Christianity, okay, yun nga, no, na-transfer din, no, yung ano nga, no, yung cultural relevance or symbolism ng ano nga, ng flower na to. Okay, in fact, no, it's being offered, no, to the Virgin Mary every May, okay, through the tradition called Ensarta de Flor de Mayo. So basically yun nga, no, they ano nga, no, yung create mga parang mga lay, okay, na ino-offer nila kay Mama Mary. Okay, and then other countries then, though it's not native to them, okay, it became a symbol of hospitality and warmth, no, for the Hawaiians, and it's the national flower of love. Okay, and in Buddhism, it symbolizes immortality because it could ano nga, no, yung produce flowers and leaves even it's uprooted. Okay, kaya naman makikita natin even the ano nga, no, it's ano nga, yung biological characteristics, ano, it could affect din, no, yung ano nga, no, yung cultural significance, yung symbolism niya. Okay, so in Southeast Asia, no, they are mainly known as temple trees or graveyard trees because they are often planted in temples, mga churches, and even cemeteries. So for example, ano nga, no, yung certain variety, yung Plumeria obtusa, no, it is called Singapore plumeria or Singapore grave flower. Okay, so in Southeast Asia, no, particularly Malaysia, it is related to the ano nga, supernatural entity called Pontianak. Okay, so the Pontianak, no, is a staple in Malaysian horror movies. So sa atin naman yun nga, no, yung ano nga, aswang, no, some people they relate the scent of Calachuchi or the presence of Calachuchi, no, as ano nga, no, yung parang habitation, no, na or dwelling ng isang ano nga, ng aswang, no. To some Filipinos, they believe that planting Calachuchi could break, no, yung good relationship ng mga tao doon, no. Pero despite of this, no, despite all the yung ano nga, no, yung perception or symbolism, no, ng ano nga, ng plumeria or Calachuchi, no, among Filipinos, no, it was planted, no, in almost every town in the Philippines, no. Augustinian priest and botanist na si ano nga, no, yung Ignacio Mercado was able to observe this, no, in the late 1600s na ang dami-daming mga towns, no, na mayroong ano nga, no, Calachuchi. Okay, so to move forward, no, yung second example, amarillo, no. So amarillo in Spanish means yellow. Okay, so it's popularly known as marigold. Okay, and it's also native to Central America and Mexico. So basically, no, these plants were ano nga, introduced to us through the galleon trade. Okay, so anyway, they ano nga, no, they are very popular as ornamentals. Okay, and they are very ano nga, yung kumbaga low maintenance, no, and that ano nga characteristic is also important also, no, when it comes to ano nga, no, yung identifying or understanding its olfactory heritage. So practical use, no, same with plumeria, no, it's like a go-to ano nga, no, herbal ano nga, no, yung plant no that could ano nga no yung allegedly cure no different kinds of skin problems, okay, and also they are edible, okay, they are being used as ingredients in drinks, soups, no, as well as ano nga no pwede rin silang gamitin as natural dye. So makita natin yung practical use niya no in different cultures, okay? So for its cultural significance, no, as we all know, di ba, even in popular culture, nadidepict naman po ito, no, na yung marigold, no, it's very related, no, or associated doon sa, ano nga, Dia de los Muertos or All Souls Day celebration or tradition ng mga Mexicans. Okay, kaya naman we could see yung sa mga pictures, di ba, yung floods of ano nga yung marigold, di ba, yung kulay either yellow or orange, no, yung ano nga no yung mga graveyards, yung mga cemeteries, no, and even houses, no, during this tradition. So initially, no, for sa ano nga no yung Aztec and Mayan cultures, no, they use it no to honor the gods, no, and other spirits. Pero eventually, yun nga no when people in this area were converted into ano nga no into Christianity, they carried on no this ano nga no the tradition of ano nga using marigold, but this time ano naman no in honor of the Virgin Mary. So there are different ano nga myths no related to ano nga to marigold. For example, no there's this ano nga no there's this tale na si Virgin Mary daw no yung parang she converted, I mean, no, yung mga marigold into gold, no, at binigay niya daw sa ano nga no sa mga poor. So ito daw yung pinagmulan ng marigold, no. That's one of the ano nga versions of the story, no. And in Hindu culture, okay, so though they are not native, no, dito sa mga ano nga no sa mga lugar na kung saan pinapractice po yung Hindu religion, no, they are being used in weddings and religious ceremonies. So they symbolize purity, divinity, and auspiciousness. And of course, no, yung scent, no, it's believed to ward off bad spirits. So same with the ano nga no Mexicans, kasi the reason why they are putting ano nga no yung marigold no sa cemetery, no, pati na rin sa mga houses, kasi the scent could ano nga no yung parang lead the souls no pabalik no doon sa pinagmulan nila, no, something like that. Okay, so kumbaga parang yun nga yung trail siya nagsiserve siya as parang ganon. Okay, so anyway, yung next no yung kantutay no it means fart no, according to the sources I've accessed, no, and it is also known as baho-baho in some parts of the Philippines. So basically, no, any term related to stench, no, ay para ina-attribute sa kantutay, no. But personally, I don't find it stinky, no. It's it has a strong scent, pero not exactly ano naman po, no, yung parang stinky for me, no. Anyway, we have ano nga lots of kantutay dun sa mga vacant lots dito sa area namin, no. So anyway, it's very invasive. Okay, so apparently, no, it's ano nga no one of those low maintenance plants din. Okay, there are conflicting sources regarding the introduction of kantutay in the Philippines. Okay, kasi there are accounts no na mga journal articles saying na it was introduced here mga 1930s, no, but I found an older ano nga no yung material which is also from the American period, pero mga 1920s. Kumbaga nakalista doon no yung mga plants dito sa Pilipinas. So it gives the impression na although it's a very technical report, no, pero it gives the impression na yung parang mas matagal na siyang nandito, no. So this is still subject to ano nga no yung further research, no. Pero yun nga no it is said na yung mga Dutch explorers, no, they are the ones ano nga yung primary responsible no for the introduction of these plants to different areas. Okay, kasi nung ano nga no nung mga bandang 16th century. So it's possible na it was introduced to us accidentally or intentionally ng mas maaga. Okay? So anyway, they appear in different forms, sometimes no yung single color or at times yung multiple. Okay? So in South Africa, no, instead of treating it as a weed because it's so invasive nga, no, they ano nga no they treat it as an ornamental plant, no. We still do naman, pero ang point dito no it's hard to yung parang mapabayaan mo lang siya ng konti, no, yung parang it could spread na, no, it could invade na ano nga other places easily. Okay, so anyway, practical use, no, same din, no. I think, no, yun nga, when it comes to identifying siguro, no, ano nga, yung mga herbal plants, no, malaking factor yung ano nga, no, yung scent when it comes to this, no. So it's one of the ano nga, yung parang mga go-to ano rin, no, yung mga herbal plants, no, because it is being used, no, to treat different skin problems, okay, including leprosy. And it is also used to cure snake bites daw and other bronchial problems. So in Ghana, the roots are powdered and they are being used to treat stomach pains. Okay, so in culture, no, so we see here, no, a postal stamp, no, from Philpost, pero instead of yun nga siguro because hindi masyadong maganda na nagamitin yung term or yung name na Kantutay, no, kaya naman nag-stick na lang doon sa Lantana. Okay, so that's the ano nga yung international name niya kumbaga, no. So as mentioned a while ago, no, it's invasive, no, kaya naman it's ano nga yung always present, no, sa mga vacant lots including cemeteries, but there are times na they are deliberately planted talaga, no, because they're ano nga yung good as hedges. Okay, and I've seen one account, no, it's a blog, no, kung saan sinasabi na I don't know how true, pero when it comes to this type of studies, no, ano nga we must ano rin, no, yung recognize yung mga ganito, no, kahit na they were informally ano nga yung recorded, no, yung parang very personal, no, yung pagka-narrate nila. So in one of the ano nga, no, yung blogs, no, that I've read, no, sa Rizal province daw, no, it is being used to scare children. Okay, kasi yung smell daw or yung scent daw ng kantutay, no, becomes strong kapag paggabi na or kapag gabi na. So this ushers the arrival of the aswang. Okay, so yun yung paniniwala, no. And then yung cadena de amor, no, the Spanish, it's a Spanish name, no, ibig sabihin niya a chain of love, no, apparently because of its ano nga, no, yung heart-shaped petals, yung ano nga, no, heart-shaped flowers, no, pati na rin yung mga leaves niya. Okay, so it's very invasive, no, native din po siya, no, ng Mexico. Okay, pero yun nga, I've tried smelling ano nga, cadena de amor, no, when I was visiting one of the public cemeteries of Bulacan. Wala siyang smell. Okay, pero yun nga, I've accessed some ano nga, no, material saying na at night, it emits scent, no? Pero yun nga, when I visited the cemetery daw, ano nga, day siya eh. So, I never had the chance naman, no, to try smelling it at night, no? Pero yun yung, ano nga, no, yun yung isa sa mga, ano nga, no, yung causes ng paniniwala, no, na same din, no, with kantutay and the other plants, no, na kapag naaamoy na siya kapag gabi, no, naniniwala, no, yung mga ibang mga ano ga, yung mga ibang mga tao na yun nga, no, padating na yung mga aswang or nandyan na yung aswang. Okay, so practical use, no, the seeds of cadena de amor are edible. Okay, they may be roasted and eaten like popcorn. So when it comes to treating diseases, no, they are also used in the management of diabetes, low blood pressure, pressure, I mean, no, including the treatment of boils and swelling. So there's this mga Ifugao migrants daw, no, in the foothills of Sierra Madre would use, no, itong ano nga, itong plant na to, no, for wound closure. Okay, and as we all know, there was a time na MMDA, di ba? Kumbaga parang ito yung naging ano nga niya, symbol, no, yung cadena de amor, no. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find, no, yung mga pictures ng MMDA office, pero if I remember it right, no, yun nga, no, nakita ko noon na even yung office niya kulay pink and then may ano nga, no, yung decorations ng cadena de amor, and of course, 'di ba, yung mga tinanim nila, no, sa along EDSA. Okay, so in culture, okay, they are almost present in ano nga, almost all cemeteries na hindi na maintain. Okay, usually mga public cemeteries, no. I find it surprising na unlike Kantutay na yung or Lantana, no, na yung lagi present siya kahit saan, pero yung ano nga, no, yung cadena de amor, but laging sa sementeryo, no, yung pero hindi madalas doon sa mga ano nga, no, yung mga vacant lots and other spaces. Kaya naman they are so associated with ano nga, no, with cementerios. Okay, so as mentioned a while ago, no, it is said na their scent, no, yung is emitted at night, no, or ini-emit niya yung scent niya at night, no, and it is associated with the presence of ghosts. Okay, so dumako na tayo dito sa analysis, no, in the interest of time, no. So colonial laws on the construction of cemeteries show their strong emphasis on the importance of air purification. The advancements in urban planning also contributed to the beautification of cemeteries, not only to present an earthly concept of paradise, but also a healthy space for the living, such as parks, no? Hence, these flowers are ideal for both addressing sanitation and beautification concerns. So common characteristics of these flowers include the following. First, no, they are aromatic, although in the case of Cadena de Amor, no, it's not as fragrant as compared to the three examples. They have attractive blooms, okay, and then these plants can be easily propagated. Okay, so in fact, they are very common. No, they are regarded for their practical use in terms of traditional healing. So as we all know, death is related to religion and other supernatural beliefs. No, and as mentioned a while ago, Calachuchi and Amarillo, they have religious significance as well, no, in Christianity. So their constant presence in cemeteries represents death and superstitions that even some, no, that are found in residential areas, no, and other public places, people still would associate them, no, with this with these themes, no, or topics. Okay, and then to add to this, no, yung ability nga nila to emit their stronger scent at night, no, adds to the yung parang mystery, no, to think that they're very common, pero yun nga, no, may mga mysterious characteristics pa rin sila, no, sa mga tao, no. Okay, so with this, they are worthy of being considered part of our olfactory heritage based on the concept discussed a while ago, because for a thing to be considered as part of heritage, first it should be something from the past that is still existing up to present. For a scent to be attributed, no, to a certain thing, no, or event, no, or a practice, no, or any belief, no, it must have other properties, no, and it should have an enduring association with a certain place, event, or practice. So to conclude, anyway, these are photos, no, kung saan makikita natin na there are plants, no, that look like Calachuchi. Okay, yung yung mga bare na Calachuchi na nag-shed ng mga leaves. Okay, although some of these are from the American period, no, pero as we all know, Calachuchi, they can live longer as compared to the other plants discussed a while ago. So to conclude, the association of aromatic flowers with death and superstition is an aspect of our olfactory and mortuary heritage that needs to be explored further. Okay? Literature, practical use, beliefs, no, and tradition can help us in understanding the role of aromatic plants in our history and culture, because yun nga, no, as mentioned a while ago, no, among the mentioned examples, ang plumeria lang, no, yung yung tumatagal yung buhay. Kaya if we are looking for like yung parang evidence, no, of them, no, planted, no, during the Spanish period, no, medyo mahirap, pero but still, no, we could rely on, of course, no, old photographs, mga accounts, no, and linguistics perhaps, no, bakit yun nga, no, yung makikita natin doon, no, na these are foreign plants, but may mga no, meron na silang mga no, yung mga local counterparts, no, in terms of names, no, and even their yung use and symbols. Okay, so anyway, that concludes, no, yung presentation ko. I hope I was able to contribute in the no, in enriching, no, our olfactory heritage. No, thank you very much. Dahil pong salamat. Okay, for the photo credits po, some of the photos are part of my personal collection, while others are from Microsoft 365. No, the rest po, these are the links, no, where you could find the pictures. Okay, so anyway, again, dahil pong salamat.
Thank you very much, Charlene. Thank you for sharing with us. Yes, I can still remember talagang yung mga deciduous trees ng Calachuchi na yan na nasa tabi ng mga sementeryo when I was a child back then in Pangasinan. It always reminds me of my dead relatives. Yes, we will reserve our Q&A later on, ha? Just
okay, thank you very much,
Charlene. Okay,
sige po,
sige.
salamat.
Let's have our next speakers. So our next three speakers are homegrown. They are all biologists from the College of Arts and Sciences, UP Manila. Our second speaker obtained her master's degree in environmental science from the Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology, College of Science, UP Diliman, where she is now also a PhD candidate. Her field of expertise is on marine bioinvasions. She has been working on Manila Bay ecological studies since 2009. She has produced several publications about marine invasive species in the area, which achieved awards. The National Initiative of the Philippines in Compliance to the International Maritime Organization conventions that the Philippines acceded to in 2018, the port and ballast water baselines using ecological, microbiological, and eDNA approaches or PORTEC project is under her leadership. PORTEC was given a large 46 million peso funding by DOSTP SURE and aims to establish baseline data on organisms found in ports all over the Philippines. This is in partnership with 5 universities and 2 government institutions, namely the Philippine Coast Guard and Maritime Industry Authority. Friends, let us all listen to the talk titled The Ecology of Manila Bay and its Invasive Species by our very own Assistant Professor Melody Ann Ocampo.
Okay, good afternoon po. Um, so I will be talking about the Manila Bay studies that we've conducted in the last 10 years with a focus on port environments and the invasive organisms that we have found, that we have identified in port environments. So being able to identify these species, the non-indigenous species, which are potentially invasive, are of interest because they are a threat to biocultural heritage, especially when they outcompete and eventually replace our natural species, our natural treasures. So, so Manila Bay is very popular to all of us because of the picturesque sunset that we observe in the afternoon. And I guess most, if not all of the people in Metro Manila has seen our sunset, and it's really uh, a sight that leave us in awe, even if we see it every day. So it's still an amazing phenomenon to observe. And around Manila Bay, we have many different structures that we have visited or that we have frequented through time. So we have hotels, restaurants, convention centers, and even the Manila Yacht Club is located in Manila Bay. And Manila Bay has been part of our lives if you live in Metro Manila, and I'm sure that you can think of an anecdote or two about your experiences in Manila Bay. And I, for one, have uh, um, a very unforgettable experience in Manila Bay aside from uh, going there throughout my childhood. So in 2006, I was part of a rowing team which trained in Manila Bay twice or thrice in a week. So we always go to the dragon boat. And of course, we come into contact with water And in our trainings, my teammates would always ask me, what organisms do you find here? It's always been a constant question that they have for me, since they know that I teach biology in UP Manila. And the experience was great. So that's me. And we became part of the Philippine delegation, which competed on behalf of the Philippines in China for the rowing team. So we have our uh, trophy here. So it was really interesting for them, since sometimes we get to catch water in our mouths when we row. So they asked me, what did I ingest in the water? So little did I know that I will be part of the team who will be studying Manila Bay and the organisms there a few years after joining the rowing team. So we started studying Manila Bay, or the team started studying Manila Bay in 2007, and I joined in 2009 because of the training that we received, the team received from IOC Westpac, and eventually also training from the International Maritime Organization, which aimed to identify marine bodies in countries in Asia, which are whose communities are in danger of being changed because of um, anthropogenic activities around the area that are occurring. And in the Philippines, the area of interest, the marine body that was of interest, is Manila Bay. So we are all acquainted with Manila Bay. So it's surrounded by a highly urbanized and rapidly urbanizing communities. Also, Manila Bay is an area of interest for these international bodies because of the different environmental issues that are associated with it, like land and sea-based pollution, sedimentation, reclamation. Also, because the biggest port in the Philippines is found in Manila Bay. So we have the port of Manila. And all no, close to the port areas are fisheries and mariculture. So all of these activities, when you consider them, make Manila Bay an area of high risk when we talk about marine bioinvasions. So we focused our study on invasives in port areas because port areas are very unique ecosystems. They are points of convergence between two geographical domains, mainly the land and maritime domain. And when we look at the maritime domain of ports, we can observe that it covers a large geographic coverage because it's about trade. And in terms of Manila Bay, we have global trade here. So we know that there are ships coming in from different countries, and these may uh, contribute or bring with them some organisms from whatever port they originate from. Also, ports provide shelter to these ships. So there are structures that are well adapted, that are for the purpose of letting the ships stay there, and also for the transfer of the goods of these ships. So there are structures that are available for organisms from ships to hold on to, or what we call fouling. So they become biological reservoir of organisms, whether they are native to us or from other ships that came from other countries. So that's one point why we like, or we found them our focus in our study of Manila Bay. Number two is that because of these infrastructures and marine traffic, the biological and physical nature of the ports can be easily changed. The conditions of the water can be changed. And these changes can be favorable to organisms coming in from other ships. And ships carry with them these organisms. How? So there are two means by which ships can carry organisms from their port of origin. One is when they adhere to the hull of the ship, or what we call hull fouling. And number two, by the ballast water that they carry. So let's take a look at these two factors. So the hull is the body of the ship, as you can see here, yeah, the main body of the ship. And there are organisms which like adhering to surfaces. That's just how they are. That's their way of life. So these hulls are very susceptible for these organisms to adhere to them. And once they adhere to the hull, they get transported to wherever the ship goes to. And again, when they are able to find a port whose conditions are the same as that of the conditions they like to live in, they can be released there and they can start surviving there. And maybe not just survive, but invading that particular area. Now, that particular phenomenon where they attach living organisms attached to a surface like the hull is what we call biofouling. Now, number two is through the ballast water. So for the foulers, so they foul the hull, and then when they get released to the port of destination, they foul the structures in the port. Now, for ballast water, we pertain here to the water that's held inside ships, because when ships travel, they need to sink a little. When they don't have anything inside but just the goods or some people, they're still very buoyant. So when a ship is very buoyant, it's hard to maneuver. So they take in a lot of water. That's what we call ballast water. They take in ballast water inside the ship so that they will sink at a certain level where the ship is easily maneuvered by the engine or the captain. So they take in a lot of water, and then they go to their port of destination. When they go to the port of destination, the ship needs to be buoyant so that it can deload the cargo that it has inside. So they need to release the ballast water so that the ship will rise at a certain level. So they need to release the ballast water, and in the ballast water can be larvae from the port of origin that are present and viable. So when they are released again to a port of destination whose waters are favorable for them to survive, then they will survive there and eventually maybe become bioinvaders. So bioinvasion is a phenomenon where a species that originally exists in a certain part of the world is intentionally or accidentally introduced in an entirely new location. The location has the same conditions as that of where it came from, and their existence can cause significant ecological and economic effects to the area. And again, there are organisms that can actually survive in the port of destination but are not invasive, but there are which become invasive. And this is the threat to Manila Bay and our species here. So some of the very popular cases that you see if you type biological invasions, examples of is the Senna polymorpha, which is a native of Europe that was translocated to the Great Lakes of the US and cost the US around $5 billion for control measure, not even eradication, just to control their numbers because they were outcompeting all types of aquaculture in the different lakes. And then we also have our tahong, Pernaviridis, which is native, which was able to be translocated to Carolina and Australia, and has also caused considerable economic losses to their oyster populations. Now, bioinvasions, uh, aside from these are examples of their environmental impact, so they can displace our natural species. So how can they displace our natural species, our native species or indigenous species, the ones that are naturally thriving or living in our environment? To keep their populations in check, they have natural predators. So you have the cycle of the predator-prey, which keep both populations in check. But with an organism that comes from another place but can live in that condition as well, they have no natural predators. So they are able to multiply without any impedance in their multiplication. So they tend to um, uh, displace or even wipe out the non-indigenous species in the area. And thus doing, they can change ecosystem function. For economic impact, so they can interfere with fisheries and mariculture, damage infrastructures because they are usually clingers, or they usually attach themselves to the different structures and multiply by attaching to these different structures. And the cost of removing them or controlling their numbers are really high. So in Manila Bay, we used Pisces collectors, which the different countries in the IOC Westpac agreed to use, since our waters are relatively of the same conditions. And this is how the collectors look like. So we made it practical so that people won't steal the collectors, because sometimes when they see that the collectors are made of materials that can be sold, they steal the collectors. But this one is very practical. These are just bucket lids, takip ng timba. And then we put plastic petri dishes, 4 plastic petri dishes on them. And then you have here the nylon line. This is the only expensive thing here, the nylon line. And then or nylon cord that passes through it, because we have to suspend them underwater and attach them to a structure above the water so that we can get the collector after a specific period of time. And then we have the weights to keep the collector submerged into the water. So the collectors are what we deploy. And then this is how it looks like. So we drop them under at least a meter from the surface of the water, or we can go deeper. And then we have the cement weight to keep them under. And then we retrieve the collector every month or every 2 months, depending on the year that we were using them. And then every period of time, we remove 1 petri dish per collector. And then that's what we study, the organisms that are adhering to the collectors. There to the petri dishes, we take a photo, and then we remove one by one everything that we find in the collectors. They seem small, but you can find so many different individuals in the petri dishes. We identify the organisms, we use taxonomic keys, and more recently we use DNA barcoding, just for us to be sure if we identify the organisms correctly. And then we, of course, consult with experts. We have confirmations with experts with our identification. So here are the groups of organisms that we found. These are the specific species. So you have the barnacles, bryozoans. We have marine worms. If you're not aware, there are worms in the marine waters, and we call them polychaetes. We have, of course, the mussels, the different types of bivalves, and then we have tunicates. So here is the list of those organisms, the common names of the organisms that we have found. So from barnacles to bryozoans to the worms, and then to the shells, to the bivalves, so the shelled organisms, and then we have the algae, and then we have the cnidarians, like the anemones. We have sea anemones also found in Manila Bay. So there's a diverse. Here is the list we generated from the organisms we found in Manila Bay through different points or periods during the last 10 years. So this is just a shorter version of the list. If you want to know everything, so I can send you the entire list of organisms. These are the ones that are naturally occurring in our waters, the indigenous organisms. And here is the list of the non-indigenous, the ones that came from other areas. So we have here, most of these are bivalves, and we also have tunicates, and then anemones, and then the worms, hydroides. Now, these are the organisms that we kept track of because of their effects. In some countries, they become invasive and they dominate the community. But through the years of our study, they kept low in numbers. So the one that I really kept monitoring was Mytilopsis salae, because it's a black striped bivalve coming from the Atlantic waters and the Caribbean. So I kept track of this because our neighboring countries have it as an invasive species. So when we go to the conference in iOS Westpac, so they talk to us about the species, and they ask about the numbers, and I tell them that the numbers are just very low, not even going to 2 digits. So we found out that it's Perna, our tahong, that keeps their numbers in check because they cannot outcompete Perna. It reproduces earlier, it establishes earlier, so there's no space and nutrients for left for Metylopsis, so it is not able to establish. But this other one, Mytela charowana, is the great invader. So this is the one that's very successful. First observed in 2014. We identified it as another species before, but with DNA barcoding, we were able to identify that it was Mytela and not Mytilus. So it persists in Manila Bay until now as an invasive species because uh, it overlaps its niche with Perna, so it shares with Perna. No, the pH salinity and nitrate content, they don't compete with each other. The recruitment is at the same time, so they're able to establish together. So this is how it looks like. It's smaller than tahong, than perna. It's, I think, 1/3 to half the size, and also with smaller flesh. So it's not masarap. It's sometimes, no, it's often served in hotels around Manila Bay, and we were surprised in a buffet that it was served in a hotel there. So, but it's not that tasty, not like unlike tahong na masarap talaga. So it's from the Pacific coast of Mexico to Ecuador, Atlantic coast of Colombia to Argentina, and now we find it not only in Manila Bay but in Pangasinan, and there are other. These are the ones that we're able to verify, but there are many other reports from other parts of Visayas and Mindanao, so which we are still verifying. We're still studying. So they have found Mitela there, and the Partec project later, I will show you that we have actually, there are some indicators that they are there. Now we did DNA studies on Mitela in Pangasinan, and our conclusion is that the source of the Mitela from Singapore and other countries would be the Philippines. So because of the DNA studies that we have done. So Manila Bay still warrants a lot of studies, and because this is just these are just a handful of species, but there are so many more. So we have worms, we have sponges, we have anemones, we have tunicates. So if you're interested, then you can let me know and you can join our team. And the ecological parameters should be constantly monitored. So we are trying to do this. We started during the pandemic, so we'll try to continue because uh, the equipment to use this is quite expensive. The one that we bought was around 460,000 pesos. So we need more of these so that we can continue monitoring. So this is our team. So we go around Manila Bay in the boat of the Philippine Coast Guard. So they're on board because they are of course the guardians of our marine waters. These are the collectors when we retrieve them and during lab work with our UP Manila students. So this is one of the publications that we have done, showing the different organisms that we were able to collect. Now, in the project that I am currently handling, so we are continuing with Manila Bay as the one of the main ports for investigation. So we also employ a new technology, environmental DNA, in studying the organisms, and we also included the microorganisms for our study for identification because they're very important in the ecology of Manila Bay as well. So it's ongoing. How many? We have 8 ports under study now. Of course, the flagship is in Manila Bay. So with the Philippine Coast Guard and Maritime Industry Authority, so we are following the standards of the International Maritime Organization. So in conclusion, so Manila Bay has a diverse port community which needs monitoring periodically because we in the project when we are given clearance to release the results by our funding agency by the end of it's still continuing, so by the end of the project we may be given clearance to discuss all of it, but I can tell you that there are new invasive species and potentially invasive species that have been identified, so it really needs constant monitoring. And there should be policies that must be created so that we can safeguard our indigenous biological communities. So what do we do when we detect the presence of potentially invasive and the ones that are actually invasive species? So as of now, there are no clear-cut policies on what we can do. So what we just do is identify, and what's next. So what's next is very important, and the involvement of the community should also be present because we are the ones who should be taking care of Manila Bay. So all the universities in Manila, not just UPM, should be on hands with this. So not just PCG, not just the marina, but all universities and even the communities living around the bay should be involved here. Thank you very much. If there are questions, I'll be very happy to answer them in the given time.
Thank you very much, Mel, for sharing with us your awesome research on Manila Bay. Okay, so we will park our questions for later's Q&A. Let's have the third speaker. Our speaker finished his bachelor's degree in biology, also here in UP Manila in 2013. After assessing plant succession in Pampanga 2 decades after the Mount Pinatubo eruption. Later, he earned his master's degree in biology with specialization in ecology, evolution, and conservation biology at San Francisco State University, California, USA in 2017. Where he explored the diversity and natural history of the woody tungao, a group of flowering shrubs and trees that are largely native to Southeast Asia. Since he came back to teach undergraduate botany to biology and pharmacy students, he immersed himself with indigenous communities in the rural northern and central Luzon, where he developed his research interest in how albolarios select and use native plants for medicinal purposes, and whether this pattern is influenced by the plant's evolutionary history. Currently, the head of Environmental Biology Unit of the Department of Biology, let us all welcome Assistant Professor Jeff Mancera to talk about Mahal Ko'y Maynila, Tracing Manila's Botanical Roots.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Chit, for the very generous introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak to today's event. May I ask our hosts if I can share my screen? Maybe I can be assigned as a co-host, if that's possible.
Wait lang, Jeff, ha?
Ay, sige lang, ma'am. No pressure.
Levi?
No rush po. I think, Ma'am Levy, if
Yes.
you can...
Just for a moment.
Ay,
I'm
sige,
looking,
go lang, ma'am. No pressure po.
yeah, I'm just looking for the name. Wait. Just for a while.
Ayan, sige, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Ba't ayaw siya control? Sandali lang, ha? I can't seem to control it. Sorry.
That's okay, ma'am. Ma'am Levy, if you can click on the ellipsis on my video box, yung camera box ko, ma'am. I think it will show you an option to make me a co-host.
Wait. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right. Your co-host now, Jeff. Sorry for that, Professor Mancera.
Ayan, yes, ma'am. Co-host na po ako, finally. Sige po, let me find my presentation. This one. And then... Ayan. I hope you can see my first slide with the title.
Yes.
Yay, okay. I can proceed now. Thank you so much, Ma'am Chit. Thank you so much, Ma'am Levy. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. First, I would like to thank again the organizing team of the 2023 International Flores de Mayo Festival and Conference and the Faura project for inviting me to speak about a topic that is very dear to me, one that is at the intersection of plant diversity and natural history. Today's students in Manila are very lucky because there is an army of advocates like the Faura Project that integrates the stories about the natural, cultural, and social environment in the city, something that is unfortunately rarely tackled within the four walls of the classroom, especially in the era of over-specialization in academia. You can call me Jeff, and I am an advocate of plant diversity education and conservation. Especially, I believe that plants and humans' way of life are intimately intertwined, and therefore, plants and humans ultimately shape one another's survival and future. Coincidentally, to further this advocacy in people-oriented botanical studies, I happen to teach at the UP Manila Department of Biology, hoping to influence more minds who will study, take pride in, and make responsible and sustainable use of our natural heritage. If you are with me in this endeavor, feel free to reach out through the email shown, and I will be very happy to connect and build with you. Now, the plant on my background is the same as the one featured on one of the new generation Philippine peso coins and is the subject of my presentation today. It began circulating in late 2019 and replaced the previous printed banknote version, which has been said to be the most ubiquitous among the peso notes. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas thought it is more cost-efficient to produce coins of that bill instead of paper, and we are happy because it happened right when the BSP also decided to feature Philippine native flora on its new generation currency series. If you have an NGC coin in your purse right now, try to take a look at what plant is featured. Those plants are native to the Philippines, meaning they have been naturally occurring in the archipelago and evolved even before the first humans did, and the first inhabitants of our islands arrived. This is opposed to exotic plants that were mostly introduced by foreigners during our colonial history. This means that Philippine native plants are a natural part of our pre-colonial history, and most of the time, we have have been an integral part of our pre-colonial cultural heritage too. So it always pays to know them. We may be diverse and far from one another as a big nation, but if there is one thing that binds us, it is our natural environment, including similar plant species that long existed across our islands. Now, I know this is a virtual presentation, but I thought that shouldn't stop me from making it as interactive as I could. I won't be surprised if there is only a handful of botanists in the audience right now, but of course, I wish there are more. But I'm sure most of us have received this coin already, including those who are not a big fan of plants yet. So how about let's have a little quiz before I officially start the presentation. If you can tell me the name of the former Philippine president who is featured on the obverse of the coin that features Mila, a GCash prize awaits you. So for those in Zoom right now, please raise your hand. First to raise and say the correct answer wins. I will approach the technical team later for your contact details so I can send to you your prize. So any takers from the audience? Any student who knows which former Philippine president is featured on that coin? Yes, Chloe Faith Pagtakhan. What's your answer?
I'll just try po. Is it Manuel L. Quezon po?
Let's see, Manuel L. Quezon. And that's correct. The answer is the President of the Commonwealth, Manuel L. Quezon. Ayan, ako may utang na ako kay Chloe Faith. Congratulations, Chloe, and rest assured, your prize is more than the bill where Quezon and Nilad are featured. Ayan, kukontakin ko po si Ma'am Chit mamaya at si Ma'am Levy para sa contact details ni Chloe. Ayan, thank you so much, Chloe. Ayan. So, now, back to the featured plant of the coin, Nilad is a shrub that reaches as high as 3 meters or 10 feet with conspicuously waxy, spoon-shaped leaves right here. And white flowers that are tinged pink right here. It is best distinguished by its leaves that are usually opposite for every node and which are separated by a ridge or flap on the stem known as the interpetiolar stipules, which is a characteristic of the coffee family to which it belongs. The flowers that are tubular or longer than wide with 4 white petals right there, 4 salmon pinkish male organs right here, pointed by arrows, known as stamens, are inserted between the petals, and a similarly salmon pinkish female organ right here, called the style, that protrudes in the center and has 2 flaring lobes right here, pointed by arrows, at the tip. Its genus name, Scyphiphora, comes from the prefix "scypho," meaning cup, and "phorus," meaning berry, likely alluding to the cup-like portions of the flower right here that remain once pollination is done. Those portions are the ovaries that eventually become the fruits after fertilization. Right here. The fruits are ovoid capsules with ridges and grooves along their lengths, which begin as green, turn white when ripe, and then brown when fully mature before they open up to expel seeds. The species was first described by German botanist Carl Friedrich Gartner in 1806, who examined 19th century plant collections from the Endeavour River in Australia. The combination of its leaves and fruits is very unique among members of the coffee family that he gave it a new genus name, Scyphiphora. And up to now, Scyphiphora hydrophyllaceae is the only species in that genus, which further attests to its very unique characters. A few decades later, Father Manuel Blanco, a Spanish friar and botanist assigned to study and write the first publication on Philippine plants, the Flora de Filipinas, described a shrub that he named Ixora Manila, saying its close resemblance to the exotic cultivated ornamental santan or Ixora coccinea, and alluding to the Philippine capital, Manila. If you've seen santan, of course, it also has, like the same tubular flowers as those of Nilad. However, later taxonomic studies show that this and the Australian shrub described by Gartner are one and the same. So by principle of priority of publication, the legitimate species name for Nilad is Scyphiphora hydrophyllaceae. Now, as an agent of science, while it is amazing, and popularly believed that Nilad is where the name of Manila is derived from, Maynilad, which means a place abounding in Nilad. There are actually a few historians and linguists who contest this. So, as there is also a theory that it came from Nila, without a D, a Sanskrit name that refers to a different species that is the source of indigo, a dye traded in Manila in the colonial times. But I leave that discussion to our experts, of course. But what's certain is that as far as natural history is concerned, the plant Nilad used to abound along the base of Luzon Island, including Manila, and therefore is a certified Philippine native plant, a natural pride and treasure for sure. Nilad is distributed throughout the Malay archipelago, New Guinea, all the way to Australia and New Caledonia, as seen on this distribution map. It is a common species in other Southeast Asian countries where they are called different vernacular names. Do you notice something about their pattern of distribution on this map? If you look very closely, they occur only on where? Only on shores. This is because Nilad occurs only in mangrove ecosystems and estuaries, where the river meets the sea and has adapted very well to harsh saltwater conditions. This is also where the specific epithet hydrophilacia is derived, which means water-loving. While the species is of least concern, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN Red List, its populations are found to be generally decreasing, which are mostly due to rapid changes in coastal environments in the region. These are some photos of Nilad showing its habit in its natural habitat. So you can see it's a shrub. It can go up as high as 10 feet. On base,
Yeah.
while on the right is a recently planted individual along a creek inside our very own Intramuros in Manila. Now, being a woody mangrove species, Nilad offers a variety of benefits for humans. Aside from its bushy leaves that absorb harmful gases, they also serve as both home and food to many marine decomposers and animals, which are the foundations of the food web, as we all know, and consequently population balance and ecosystem health along those lines. Perhaps one of their most direct benefits to humans, and which has been reinforced, particularly in the past decade, is their ability to reduce the strength of tidal waves that reach the shore. In the era of accelerated climate change that manifests in extreme weather disturbances like storm surges, if a mangrove ecosystem is healthy, the sturdy above ground prop roots of mangrove shrubs and trees and their bushy shoots can physically weaken waves, as observed in numerous studies. This simultaneously prevents frequent encroachment of the beach by the waves that otherwise leads to sand and soil erosion and sometimes collapse along the shores, further protecting properties and lives along the coast. More importantly, mangroves are part of the riparian culture of the Tagalogs, who used to depend their food on the products and livelihood on the health of rivers, estuaries, and coasts. Many old photographs and paintings have depicted this intimate relationship between residents of Old Manila and mangrove flora, which certainly included Nilad. Unfortunately, though, numerous studies, including those of the Ecosystem Modeling and Material Transport Analysis, or ESMART, for the rehabilitation of Manila Bay, or ESMART of the National Hydraulic Research Center of UP Diliman, have found that mangroves in Manila Bay, which comprises not just Manila, remember, but also the coasts of neighboring provinces in the north, such as Bulacan and Bataan, and Cavite in the south, have decreased significantly by as much as half in the past 2 decades alone. And while rehabilitation efforts are being conducted and recently even more actively revived, issues such as inappropriate species and planting sites continue to hamper ecosystem restoration, which actually requires re-establishment of flora and fauna that are native and therefore more adaptive to the area. On top of that, while restoration efforts are often restricted to local governments with limited terms, resources, and priorities, reclamation of the surrounding waters of Manila Bay also pose a grave threat to the remaining native mangrove flora in the region. On the right hand is a map of the alleged 25 reclamation projects being proposed along Manila Bay, including the Bulacan Aerotropolis project, which is so far beginning to displace local mangrove species and therefore livelihood and people. Finally, ways forward, given our current knowledge of NILAD, Seville hydrophyllaceae, and the mangrove ecosystems. First and foremost, let us spread awareness about this Philippine native plant, especially through different formations like the Faura project. Of course, please join organizations that tackle issues surrounding the Manila Bay. There is a coalition of organizations of scientists and community organizers around Manila Bay. It's called Save Manila Bay PH. You can scan that QR code. It will lead you to the website where you can sign up as a volunteer of Save Manila Bay PH. That ends my presentation, but hopefully not our interaction. If you want to keep in touch, I'm all over academic and social media. This QR code right here will lead you to the list of my contact information as well as an evaluation form. Let me know your most honest thoughts about my talk today. And if you have questions or proposals for collaboration, I'd love to hear them, of course. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions as well as expert advice in the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Jeff, for that very interesting talk about NILAD. Okay, so again, we will park our questions and we will return to you later. Okay, let's have our fourth and last speaker. Our speaker obtained a Ph.D. in plant biology from the University of Canterbury, New Zealand. Currently, he teaches undergraduate botany courses, including plant systematics and plant morphoanatomy and physiology. His research interests include plant systematics, conservation genetics, and species distribution modeling. He is a former vice president of the Philippine Native Plants Conservation Society, Incorporated, and a current board member of the Association of Systematic Biologists of the Philippines. He is passionate about stimulating interest in plants to the general public, especially among the younger generation. He strives to increase awareness of the need for more people to study plants and to foster appreciation of the importance of plants to our everyday life, including their contribution to mitigating the consequences of climate change. Friends, let us all listen to the talk titled Dita, the Scholar's Tree, a UP Manila Heritage, by our own Associate Professor Jasper John Obico.
Thank you, Ma'am Chit, for the kind introduction. Let me just share my slides. Just give me a moment. I would like to congratulate my fellow speakers for their wonderful talk. Hopefully you can see my slide now. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jasper Obico, and I'm from the Department of Biology, UP Manila. And I would like to thank first the International Flores de Mayo Conference and Festival 2023 organizers for giving me this opportunity and privilege to present my talk about the heritage tree in UP Manila, the Dita, the Scholar's Tree. So this is the Dita Heritage Tree in UP Manila, and it's so huge. It's 20 meters tall, 20 meters in height, and 5 meters in diameter. And it's found in the Pedro Hill side of UP Manila. So if you go to the Pedro Hill side of UP Manila, the Dita Heritage Tree is next to the new 18-story National Institute of Health building of UP Manila. So what is DITA? DITA is the Tagalog name for Alstonia scolaris. So that's a scientific name of DITA. And Alstonia scolaris is the name given by Robert Brown for this tree in 1811. Other than DITA, it is also known as Dalipoen, which is, I think, another Filipino language. And in English, it's known for a few names, such as the blackboard tree and the devil's tree. DITA is a member of the Apocynaceae, or the periwinkle family. It is related to Calachuchi, and I think that tree has been was discussed early on. DITA is a native of the Philippines and also in other areas in tropical Asia, down to northern Australia. So the green parts here on the map shows you the natural distribution of Alstonia scolaris. So how do we recognize DITA or Alstonia scolaris? So it is a tree, and the leaves are 3 to 10, and they're leathery, and they form a whorl around the stem. The flowers are fragrant, and it usually blooms from October to March. And I think most people from UP Manila would smell the fragrant flowers during those times. Although the flowers are small, they form clusters. The fruit is like a legume. It's long. It will remind you of a sitaw. And the bark has a very abundant white sap or latex. So what is the Heritage Tree program? So the declaration of DITA as Heritage Tree is actually based on the Heritage Tree program of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources of the Philippines. So it's based on their memo, series of 2009. And the aim of this program is to conserve all indigenous trees, which are green landmarks of a place. If you can remember, there are places in the Philippines or even in Metro Manila, they are named after trees like Sampaloc, Bulacan, Dao, and so on. Another aim of the Heritage Tree program is to involve the community in protecting the heritage trees and to address the poor air quality, especially in urban centers such as Metro Manila. And the purpose of that is to mitigate the effects of climate change and protect urban biodiversity. So the DITA is just one of the several trees in UP Manila. So there are actually several DITA trees in UP Manila, and there's one that stands out, and that was the one declared or chosen as the heritage tree. And the declaration was on the 22nd of January, 2014. So it has been 9 years since the declaration of this tree as a heritage tree. And the ceremony was held on the alley between the old SSWC and Science Centrum. Now, these two buildings are gone because they were demolished to give way to the construction of new buildings in the Pedro Hill side of UP Manila, such as the new National Institute of Health building. And the declaration, as you can see in the photo, was during the time of former Chancellor Manuel Agulto. So during the declaration, there was an agreement signed between the DNR and UP Manila. And in the agreement, there were responsibilities stipulated. So the DNR, the responsibilities would be to provide technical assistance, heritage tree care and maintenance, and they're also to evaluate tree protection plan. And this is required when a construction is needed or will be done around the tree. There needs to be a tree protection plan. Also, the DNR is the only one who that can authorize pruning or removal of the heritage tree. Now, what would be the responsibilities of UP Manila? So the UP Manila should maintain the marker of the heritage tree. And as you can see in the photo, the marker is still there. Good job. And UP Manila should assist the DNR NCR in regularly monitoring the heritage tree. Has UP Manila kept its promise in protecting the heritage tree? During the new NIH building construction, the heritage tree was almost cut down because UP Manila thought that maintaining a tree such as that would be costly, and they thought that the tree is in poor health condition. But later they realized that it was a heritage tree. Somehow, for some reason, they might have forgotten that that tree was declared as a heritage tree. But when they realized that it was a heritage tree, they said that we need to keep that tree, which is good. And I commend UP Manila for that. So what they did is they asked the contractor to revise the plan to include the Dita heritage tree in the design package and penalize the contractor if the tree died. The next question is, how long will this commitment last? Because we know that the term of a chancellor would just be only for 3 years. To reaffirm UP Manila's lifelong commitment in protecting the Dita heritage tree, I think it is high time for UP Manila to fully acknowledge the Dita heritage tree as part of its own heritage, not least because the tree was recognized a heritage tree by the DNR. So the question now is, what makes the DHT then a part of UP Manila heritage? What is a heritage? We've been talking about heritage in this conference. Well, according to the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary, a heritage is the history, traditions, buildings, and objects that a country or society has had for many years and that are considered an important part of its character. Based on this definition, I think the Dita heritage tree ticks the boxes. Let's see. Number one, Dita has been part of the UP Manila landscape for a long time. The diameter of the tree is around 500 centimeters. If the growth rate of the Dita tree is 3 centimeters per year, then the heritage tree would be more than 160 years old, which is actually older than UP Manila itself. UP Manila is just 115 years old. So since Dita has been in UP Manila for a long time, then the DHT, Dita Heritage Tree, represents the establishment of the University of the Philippines. And UP Manila is the original UP. And because of that, the Dita has been a silent witness to the milestones of the university and the evolution of the UP Manila landscape. It has seen the establishment of different colleges in the campus. It has survived World War II, and recently it has survived the pandemic. And now it's seeing now the modernization of buildings in UP Manila. Secondly, just like as UP Manila is the health sciences center, Dita is a source of healing. And Dita has been used traditionally as a medicine. And bioactive compounds, many bioactive compounds have been found in Dita. In India, Dita is also known as Saptaparni, which is a Sanskrit which means 7 leaves. And the bark in India is called Dita bark. So maybe the word Dita came from India. And as you can see here in this screenshot, the bark is the most used part and the most important medicinally of Dita. Bark has a long list of traditional use as medicine. It could be probably because of the white sap that is present in Dita, in the bark of Dita. And the medical importance of Dita in India goes back in ancient times. Dita has been recorded in Ayurveda, which is an ancient medical system in India. In the Philippines, Dita has been traditionally used against fever, dysentery, chronic diarrhea, malarial fever, and it has been also used as an astringent, anti-helminthic, and antiperiodic. And the bioactive compounds in Dita can be found in almost every part of the tree. There are bioactive compounds found in the leaves, in the barks, in the roots. And one of the most important bioactive compounds in Dita are the alkaloids. And there are over 70 different types of alkaloids found in Dita. When we say bioactive compounds, by the way, it means these are chemicals that has pharmacological importance. Now, one of the 70 alkaloids that has been found in Dita is this alkaloid, manilamine. And it is the only alkaloid that has been isolated from Alstonia scolaris. So in other words, manilamine is a unique alkaloid from Dita, and it was isolated by a Filipino scientist, Dr. Macabeo from UST, University of Santo Tomas. And these are the long list of biological or pharmacological properties of the bioactive compounds. So you have anti-malarial, anti-diabetic, analgesic, anti-cancer, down to anti-tuberculosis. And I think the list goes on. And other than the bioactive compounds and traditional use of Dita, Dita as a tree could have positive health impact. Urban trees have been found to reduce harm, such as reducing air pollution, which correlates to lower prevalence of lung cancer and asthma, protection against UV radiation, excess heat, which is so relevant nowadays, and even crime. It can even reduce crime. And this was based on a review study. And urban trees has the capability to restore cognition, attention, improve mental health, reduces anxiety, improves the mood. If you know forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku in Japan, and urban trees also have been found to improve clinical outcomes, such as lowering the blood glucose level, lowering the blood pressure, and shortening recovery period. Also, it improves immune function, promotes active lifestyle, which is related to weight status and cardiovascular function, and fosters social cohesion. Now, lastly, why Dita is a UP Manila heritage. Dita has long been associated with education and scholars. The botanical name of Dita, Alstonia scolaris, is a good proof of that. Alstonia is named after Dr. Charles Alston, which is a professor of botany in Edinburgh. And scholaris, as you can know, obviously, it's a Latin for scholar. And it was named as such because the tree was used to used to be a source of blackboard. It used to make slate a blackboard for school children back in 18th century in Myanmar. And in India, especially particularly in a university called Visva Bharati University, wherein the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is the chancellor, Dita is a very important academic symbol. So during graduation rites, they give the twigs of Dita to students or to the academics. And Dita has been found a very resilient tree. There has been a resurgence of interest in using Dita as a street tree. If you've been to Ayala Avenue or into one of the Ayala malls, you will see this tree, and that is Dita. These trees are Dita trees. Because of that character of Dita as a resilient and hardy tree, Dita can be a symbol of resilience of students in the UP Manila community. So in summary, we have learned that Dita should be part of UP Manila heritage because it is one of the founding members of the UP Manila community, and in its lifetime has been a silent witness to the evolution of UP Manila and its landscape. Dita is a symbol of UP Manila's character. It is a source of healing, it's associated with education and a resilient tree. Because of those things, we can say that Dita is the scholar's tree. And as part of the UP Manila heritage and the agreement with the DNR, the Dita heritage tree should enjoy a lifetime protection by UP Manila. And as found in the center of a highly urbanized Manila, and as the health sciences center, UP Manila should also advocate for urban greening and should add and protect more native trees on the campus. So maraming salamat po sa pakikinig.
Congratulations! Ang galing-galing naman. Jas, thank you very much for that very great talk about our Dita. Okay? Sige. So let's have now the Q&A. We have the Q&A first, Levy, or the certificates first? Okay, so the Q&A first. So all the members of the panel are here. Okay, so our first question goes to Sir Obico. Sir Obico, we have seen that our past Chancellor Agulto, our current Chancellor Padilla are both protective of our Dita heritage tree. They have really shown their great support for the protection, conservation, preservation of our Dita. So my question is for the CAS community, particularly the Department of Biology. How can you help promote in the conservation, protection, and information dissemination of this tree? Why? Because I noticed that many of our students really don't know about this plant. So what is your role now, the Department of Biology?
That's a very good question, ma'am. I think as faculty members of the Department of Biology, we have the privilege and the opportunity to influence our student and to increase the level of awareness of this Dita tree. I can understand that not many constituents of UP Manila know about this tree because the Dita tree is inconspicuous actually, originally. It used to be located between the SSWC and Science Centrum, and nobody goes there except if you have a PE. and even if you do PE, even if you did take PE classes, it's not a guarantee that you would see that tree because it's hidden way back in the alley. So nandun talaga siya sa sulok. So you will never notice that. But now, in its present location, it's now in front of the NIH building. But I think at the moment there's still construction going on there. So the access by public is still not as much, you know. But I think one of the ways to contribute to conservation of that is popularizing it, putting labels, because if people understand the importance of that tree, that would put pressure on the administrators to value that tree. And now I'm really thanking this conference that you gave us this opportunity to talk about this dita tree, because this is one way of popularizing that.
Yes, thank you very much, Sir Jas. And I would like to commend one of the activities in your plant systematics before. You used to bring students to a tree walk of UP Manila. So you bring them to the different trees and inform them about this tree, not only botanically, but the different significance or importance of this tree. So yeah, I understand with the pandemic, this was not possible. But now that we are coming to the new normal, I hope we can return to this so that you can show this our students and eventually the UP Manila community, that very important tree. And also, in addition, you mentioned also that we have several trees, no? Several dita trees, hindi lang iisa, no, Jas? So maybe we can
Yes.
ask the cooperation or help of ano pa to? CPDMO and in protecting this particular trees. Kasi alam na natin kung gaano kahalaga niyang puno na yan. And siguro nga marami pang mga important trees sa atin sa UP Manila na hindi lang natin nabibigyan ng pansin. Like that very large tree dun sa between public health and NIH.
Pharmacy.
Dun sa Pedro Hillside, di ba meron dong napakalaking puno sa public health? Napapansin nyo ba yon? It's between public health and yung parking area nila doon. Di ba merong
It's dita.
Dita din yon? Oh, so dapat
dita,
talaga.
It's dita, ma'am. Pati yung sa harap ng
next heritage tree din yan. Kasi ang laki-laki niyan. So I'm sure, yes. Sorry.
Saka ma'am yung sa harap ng pharmacy. Saka pa yung nasa harap ng College of Pharmacy. That's also a huge dita tree, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves. If my memory is correct.
Ang dami talaga, no, na nandun sa Pedro Hillside, no? Yes, Levy.
Yes, I was wondering whether you will see my hand kasi nga yung color ng kamay ko kasing color ng background eh. So, but yes, thank you, Chit. Yeah, I just two short points. First, very much in relation to what we were talking about already. You know, I wanted to ask Jasper nga kung from CAS, no, since all of our students enter UP Manila through the College of Arts and Sciences, no, which is at Faura side, no, very far from Pedro Hill. Where would you know where the nearest dita tree is from CAS?
We have there's one next to us, but it's in the Supreme Court compound.
Okay. Nasa loob ng Supreme
Court? Yes. Nasa loob po, ma'am. So, usually kapag mga summer, may naamoy kayong medyo matapang ang amoy, that's most likely coming from the dita.
All right. Okay. My second short question would be, it's really more of a suggestion, no? Because earlier Professor Rubite did mention that he used to conduct walks, no, which would cover different botanical plants in UP Manila. It just occurred to me that if ever you would be in town, no, during our next Flores de Mayo conference, or it can be a regular thing, no? Since we have every Flores de Mayo, we have a heritage trail, no? But our heritage trail is really focused more on the cultural heritage, no, of UP of Ermita. Now it would be wonderful if we also have a walk, no, or a heritage trail which would cover this time, or which will cover as well ito na nga yung biocultural, the plants, no? So these actually an invitation for next year's Flores de Mayo event. If ever we can have, it would be wonderful if we can hold a walk, we can have a walk, no? But this time focus na on those trees, no? That and in that way it will also be our way of helping out in the cause, no, of propagating Dita as heritage, not only to our UP Manila attendees, but also it's on our participants are not just are all over, right? No, it's not just in Manila, but in other part, but also abroad, no? But yeah, it can be our way of helping out, no, by promoting this walk, which you may conduct on May, which is very parang ano siya very ideal, no? It's a month of May, it's a month for flora, no? And then only these just an invite, no? Of course, this will be subject to your availability and perhaps some of your colleagues, no, in the Department of Biology, no? Yes, Chit, no?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, we started.
Ma'am, if I may comment to
yeah, we started talking about that already, but then yun nga, because of the pandemic, parang wag muna ma'am, sabi nila. So kasi yun nga, ginagawa nila dati talaga yan with the plant systematics class. Yes, Jas?
Ano ma'am, Jeff and I, before we had a meeting with the College of Pharmacy, and we have this idea of putting names on trees in UP Manila. And we kind of like also incorporating like a tree walk doon sa UP Manila campus para rin ma-popularize yung mga trees doon sa loob ng campus. So parang ganun. Pero it's just an idea, and yeah. And yung Philippine Native Plants Conservation Society, which I am a member of, we also conduct tree walk. Usually ginaganap namin yan sa Diliman kasi maraming trees doon. I'm sure meron din sa UP Manila pero hindi lang masyado sigurong napapansin.
Yeah, agree. Sir Jeff, you made mention earlier about Save Manila Bay project. Can you elucidate further on this project, Sir Jeff?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. So Save Manila Bay PH is kind of like a coalition of different organizations that are interested in like doing research, but also like empowering the communities like around Manila Bay, because we know that Manila Bay is not really just about like the waters and the different plant and animal species that inhabit the bay, but actually it's also about like the communities surrounding the bay, all the way from Bataan and Bulacan down to Manila and then to Las Piñas, to Pasay, Las Piñas, and then Cavite. So I think many organizations that are part of the coalition are also organizations of the University of the Philippines, including UP Manila. One of the founding members of the coalition is AGHAM, which is a group of scientists and advocates in science, and they have a chapter composed of students from our very own campus. So they were the ones who introduced the coalition to me in one of my classes before the pandemic. So what they do is essentially they gather different literature about like the current affairs of Manila Bay, including the most controversial, like recent ones, like especially the reclamation projects being proposed in the area. So far, I think they are trying to, build solid, updated literature to tell people that first and foremost, Manila Bay, at feel ko na-mention naman na to ni Ma'am Melody kanina, na Manila Bay is not necessarily, like a dead body of water. Like it's really teeming with life. So I think that's one of the many advocacies of the coalition in terms of like education, to make people know that there is life in Manila Bay and it can really be restored, which is in contrast to, unfortunately, which is in contrast to, like the claims of many powerful like institutions saying that Manila Bay is hopeless and that all we can do is really just, like build man-made structures along the area, para like along the region, parang ganyan. So these are groups of students and scientists and again advocates that want to use scientific data to counter claims by big entities like big corporations to hopefully, like save and restore finally Manila Bay. Ayun po, ma'am.
Thank you, Sir Jeff. Ma'am Melody, I think your publications would really speak about the diversity already of Manila Bay. So, what can you say about this dolomite thing that will affect the diversity of this Manila Bay?
Hi, ma'am. So yung sa Dolomite, ma'am, so we looked at the uh, group of organisms during the time that there was the deposition of dolomites, and there was not much change, although yung change, ma'am, na nakita namin ay during the cleanup that was also alongside with the deposition of dolomite in Manila Bay. So merong lumabas na mga marine worms na hindi lumalabas pagka talagang madumi. Meron kaming nakitang isang family ng worms na biglang nandun that indicates some level of improvement in the quality of the water. So, but then again, it has to be, I don't know, it's not really much related to the dolomite, but the cleanup that went along with it. So that's according to what we have. But it has to be consistent because as of now, bumalik na naman. Ganun na naman yung nakita namin na organisms the same as before the cleanup. So I guess what we were saying to the OST when we discussed that with them was again the consistency of cleanups, although the source should be what should be guided, because we can clean up and clean, but if the source, the provinces and the municipalities from where we get all of the pollution from is not controlled or handled, then there's no amount of cleanup that can really clean Manila Bay. So it's a real enforcement of policies that we are still creating. And when we have them, walang masyadong ngipin. So yun po yung parang problema. Medyo malayo sa dolomite, pero it's the closest that I have with me.
Thank you. Ma'am Charlene, you made mention about some rules that are followed in this construction or in the cemeteries. Are these still being followed despite the fact na lalo na sa mga probinsya, no, at dami-dami ng mga kung saan-saan na mga sementeryo, no? So I hope these regulations are still implemented and fully followed.
Well, the rules po na nabanggit ko kanina, yung ano nga, no, yung regarding dun sa ano nga, yung kumbaga initial sila ng mga policies, no, na may kinalaman nga po sa miasma. I think ngayon when it comes to plants, hindi na siya nasusunod, pero when it comes to planting of kalachuchi, marami pa rin kasi I've observed din po even sa mga bagong sementeryo na private, no, they would still plant pa rin yung mga kalachuchi. I just ano lang po, failed to show lang kanina sa presentation, pero I have private photos na talagang yun nga, kapag magtatanim sila or they would replace ano nga no, yung mga nahulog na or na sirang trees no, because of the typhoons no, kalachuchi pa rin yung ano nga no, yung gusto nila. I think yun nga no, because siguro sa practicality na lang and they're beautiful, 'di ba? Yung
Oo
mga
nga.
kalachuchi po eh.
Yeah,
Ayun
yeah.
nga no, kaya naman naging favorite na rin po sila ng mga ano nga no, ng mga garden enthusiasts because they could be easily ano nga yung bred no, dahil po yun nga no, pwedeng mag-result ng iba't ibang kulay. Pero yun po no, I think yung sa enclosure no, fina-follow pa rin naman po yun except na lang dun sa ano nga no, dun sa miasma because it's obsolete na no. I think kung nandun man yung mga plants pa no, yung plumeria yun po kasi talaga yung mas evident eh. It's because siguro na rin no, yung nakagawian na siya eh. But yun nga, some people are no longer ano lang yung aware na no doon sa link ng plumeria and ano nga superstitious beliefs. Pero yun nga I observe naman pagdating po sa mga Pilipino when it comes to ano nga no yung fragrant flowers, especially yung mga nag-i-emit ng scent at night, they always associate it with ghosts. So
Yeah.
siguro gano'n no. So I hope I was able to answer the question pero for me no yung hindi na talaga gano'n kasi po if yes, in a way, fina-follow pa rin naman, pero not in the context of miasma. But because of, ano na lang, yung cemeteries as parks din. Di ba? Kasi, like what I've said kanina, cemeteries or yung death in general is something related to religion eh. Kahit
Yeah.
na ang purpose nila for choosing aromatic plants ay, yun nga, no, to purify the air. But at the end of the day, if it's something linked sa religion, dapat yung meron din siyang alam niyo yung parang kahulugan or parang meron ding some attached na or ascribed na belief doon sa mga halaman kasi ang dami naman pong invasive na halaman eh pero how come of all the invasive plants ang laging na-associate sa sementeryo, cadena de amor, gano'n, no? Tsaka yung, yun nga, yung
Lantana. Yan, mga
lantana, di
yan.
ba po? To think
Oo.
na dami-dami naman, no? Pero I think because of the scent nga, no? Pero
Yeah.
yun nga, ang hirap lang po kasing patunayan yung doon sa ibang mga plants. Unlike yung plumeria, there are kahit paano pictorial or photographic evidence eh. Siguro, I don't know, no? Yung mga future studies. Pero kaya nga, ang ginawa ko doon sa ibang approach siya. So parang, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, yung parang, yun nga, saan nanggagaling yung association ng mga plants na to doon sa, ano nga, sa patay or sa superstitious beliefs. Basta ganun na lang ba siya? So, anyway, ganun po yung doon sa attack doon, ano nga, na doon sa presentation if you, ano nga po yung notice. So, it's like a combination of practicality to follow the rule at the same time yung yun nga because it's about death, 'di ba? Merong superstition na attached pa rin, no? Yun po. So anyway, some of the plants naman po are being offered just like in the case of marigold. I remember nung bata ako maraming nagtitinda ng marigold during ano nga yung All Saints Day. No, pero yun nga napalitan na halos ng mga chrysanthemums, no? Pero yun nga marami tsaka yung ano nga ibang variety or I don't
Yeah,
know
correct.
kamag-anak ng marigold like yung cosmos no so yung mga nahuhulog na mga seeds nagsisitubuan sa mga old cemeteries no, pero ngayon hindi na po ako nakakakita ng mga nagtitinda ng marigold no during ano nga All Souls Day pero anyway the scent di ba I don't know kung ganun din po sa inyo yun nga, ano, laging, ay, bulaklak ng patay yan, bulaklak ng pampatay yan eh, di ba po? It's not about the color but the scent. Yun yung
Yeah.
laging ginagawang reason bakit siya pampatay, something like that. So,
Yes.
lang po.
Okay, thank you, Charlene.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Levy.
Yes, thank you, Chit. Yes, I have a question for Charlene, but before I ask it, I'd like to clarify first, kasi baka I think I got distracted by a text message earlier. If there was a mention of the use of cypress tree, no, as a bilang pangbakod ng mga sementeryo, or at least did you get to mention cypress tree earlier? Parang hindi
No po.
Okay.
I think sa mga ano po, yung mga foreign counterparts, ano nga, yung ginagamit nila yon. Actually, yun nga, that's the reason why I discuss yung mga ano nga, yung significance in culture and practical use. Kasi nga, hindi sila nami-mention specifically eh. 'Di ba? Kumbaga yung I don't know how to explain this in psychology or anthropology. Yung memory nasa yung ano nga eh, yung association dun sa patay sa cemetery nandoon pero hindi natin alam bakit, 'di ba? So kaya ganun ko siya nalilink with cemetery. Wala specifically nababanggit. 'Di ba po? Pero how come we always associate this plant sa ano nga sementeryo? Pero yun nga yung iba, thankfully, 'di ba yung plumeria or calachuchi nakikita natin. Wala po, no, yun nga specifically dun sa tanong, wala pa po akong nai-encounter na sinasabi basically yung generic siya na aromatic plants eh. No,
Okay.
kaya rin po ang hirap din niyang i-investigate kasi like marigold namamatay yan, 'di ba? Yung lantana din naman although mas lasting sila, no? Pero invasive sila eh. Pero yung ganun din po yung cadena de amor. Pero yun nga, no, sa ibang bansa ginagamit sila. Pero sa atin, I haven't encountered po, na may specific mention of that plant po.
Yeah. I just wanted to know whether you mentioned cypress earlier. Kasi my question is, ito pa lang po yung okay. My question is, kasi nagtuturo kasi ako ng art history and well, of course, when we talk about when you mention Van Gogh, you always know about, we always see parang we know him of parang associated to Van Gogh would be paintings which would showcase cypress trees, no? And then we would talk about it as a symbol of death because it is said that parang common practice daw kasi sa Europe that cypress trees would serve as like parang fence, no, or pangbakod ng mga sementeryo. And then of course since we have we are in the Philippines and it's always good to link it with the things that are local, no. I would tell my students that okay, how would you link that para apparently parang non-relatable fact, no, to the local scene, no, but because we also know that in Florante at Laura may or at least may ano doon merong endnote, no. May footnote, no, which does say that, no, na yung ano nga ang cypress tree are used to bilang bakod, no. I was just wondering whether this is still the case, no, in at least in the cemeteries which at least you have seen, no, in Spain, no, if you have witnessed use of cypress trees in some of the cemeteries in Spain.
They do naman po, I think because conducive yung growth nung tree na yun doon, unlike sa atin. Pero ipaki-correct nyo po ako kayong nasa field ng botany, no? Pero as far as hindi siya ganun ka hindi widely cultivated po yung tree na yun eh. Unlike kasi yung plants mentioned a while ago, even though they're not native, ang dali kasi nilang i-propagate eh. Something like that, no? At saka yung napaka-strong nung nila, 'di ba, yung significance nila sa iba't ibang mga kultura. So, yun nga, I think unang-una hindi siya conducive dito. Kasi if I'm not mistaken, yung dun sa literary work naman na yun, 'di ba, yung mas based siya doon sa European rather than doon sa local. I mean, yung mga Spanish period na literary works, 'di ba? Some of them they are not that yung setting, 'di ba? Yung context ay hindi masyadong local kasi nga yung parang most of them or some of them are patterned sa European counterparts or settings. Kaya siguro nababanggit po yung puno na yon, no, doon sa sa literary work na mention niyo po kanina. Pero I think no yung yung practically speaking hindi siya yung ideal dito na tumubo, So I guess yun nga yung reference doon sa literature is something European, not
it does.
Really.
Yeah, I was asking if it still grows in Spain. Yeah. But anyway, thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Charlene. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Kasi itong mga species na to ay temperate species, so they are more predominant there. Pero good yung suggestion ni Sir Jasper, no, sa chat. Sabi ni Jas, maybe it's time to trying native plant counterparts, no? Marami naman talaga tayong puno di ba, no? Para yan nga ma-replace ng mga native natin talagang puno ang itatanim diyan sa mga vacant lots natin, lalong-lalo na sa mga sementeryo na yan, di ba? So let's continue the advocacy of Leonard Coe, na Leonard Coe started collecting native seeds para nga dapat doon sa gagawing was it a botanical garden by the Lopezes, kaya siya nangongolekta ng native tree. So kung itong mga native seeds ng trees natin ang itatanim, so mas malalago pa, mas dadami pa yung mga puno natin, mga sariling puno natin. Hindi kagaya ng mga itinatanim ngayon ng mga LGUs na it's mostly mahogany, Gemelina. So tama, no? Dapat talaga yung mga native trees natin ang itanim natin. Okay? So meron pa bang tanong? Kasi malapit na yung ating oras. Okay? So kung wala na, can we have the certificates? Okay, so we will have this certificates sent to your emails. So first to Miss Charlene Menese for speaking on Scent of Death, understanding the heritage value of flowers through their role in the construction of cemeteries during the Spanish colonial period. Thank you, Miss Menese. Next, for Assistant Professor Melody Ocampo for her talk on the ecology of Manila Bay and its invasive species. Thank you, Ma'am Mel. Next, Assistant Professor Jeffrey Mancera for speaking on Mahalkoy Maynilad, tracing Manila's botanical roots. Thank you, Sir Jeff. Next, for Associate Professor Jasper John Obico for his talk on Dita, the Scholar's Tree, a UP Manila heritage. So thank you very much to all our speakers today, and hopefully please participants accomplish the evaluation form, which is now being shown in the slide, and maybe later on in the chat box, the link, Ma'am Levy. Okay, siya, sige. So let's have a group photo. Wait lang, ha? Thank you, Sir Nanding, for joining us. Sir Haureg is here.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you too. I learned many things.
Thank you, Sir Santa
You're
Maria,
welcome.
for joining us also. Thank you very much.
Dr. Auriga and Dr. Santa Maria were with us since this morning. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
Yeah. Should we have the photo shoot now, Chit?
Yeah. Who
Sige.
will take the photo?
Ako na.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So, would you require to have the picture? Okay. Those who would like to have their videos on, please do so now.
Sige.
All right. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. All right. One more time. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Maraming
wonderful
salamat din po.
discussion. I'll now review Kalachuchi, Nilad, and tahong and Dita the same way today from all our 4 speakers. So, talaga, Melody, yung yung tahong mo, eye-opener sa akin. But and the diva, of course, the Jasper and the Kalachuchi of Charlene, of course, no. What we always have in the Flores de Mayo conference, something about the Nilag, no, and this is something which was offered to us by Jeffrey in this session. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for all the speakers. I mean, for the topics of all our speakers today. We learned a lot, and hope to see you again in our next annual conference. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Maraming
Thank you
salamat
po.
po.
Thank
Thank
you po.
you.
Thank you, Ma'am
Thank you
Chi.
po.
Thank you
Thank you, Ma'am
po.
Levy.
Thank you po.
Yes,
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you too. Okay. Hi, Matthew. See you.